Jesus teaching to love your enemy, to pray for those who would persecute you, literally rock the world. And even today, this is a concept that if we would learn, think of the nation that we could be in America today. We've heard the term thrown around. Back in the 60s, the word love was thrown around a whole lot, but often it was love in a very narrow sense of the word. Jesus said, love everybody. Love that which is good. Be a lover of good things. In Titus chapter 3 and verse 1, Paul told Titus, and I thought this was interesting because Titus here is being addressed as a preacher of the gospel. He's told him to be ready to every good work. In Galatians 6 and verse 10, we find this thrown out to every Christian, every child of God. We are to do good unto all men, especially they who are the household of faith. Now, you know, it's easy to do things for fellow Christians, but it's hard to do something for someone that hates you. It's hard to do something for someone who has hurt you. Maybe they've gossiped about you. Maybe they've slandered you. Maybe they've hurt your reputation or that of your family. But what does God tell us? He says, love them. Remember the golden rule, do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Many want to read that today, do unto others as they do unto you. He spat on me, I'm going to spit on him. He hit me, I'm going to hit him. He trespassed on my property, I'm going to trespass on his property. What does Jesus say? If he smites you on the one cheek, turn the other. If he does something bad, do something good in return. One of the qualifications that's given here is to be a lover of good things. Now, it's interesting. Ardent and Gingrich defines this term in the Greek as loving what is good. They go on to point out a lover of good or benevolence generally. Sadly, not everyone is able to look for and find good, even in bad situations. Sometimes we forget that people themselves are not bad people, but they're making wrong choices, often sinful choices. They're still individuals with a soul. They're still created in the image of God. And we all at some point make poor choices. At some point as human beings, we all sin. Romans 3, verse 23. But you see, one who serves as an elder has got to be able to look over things sometimes in order to look for the good, in order to try and remedy the problem. Therefore, this qualification is extremely important. Let's notice one other qualification tonight, and we're going to stop. An elder is to be just. Now, the Greek word here was first used of persons observant of custom and rule and right, especially in the fulfillment toward gods and men of things that were in accordance with right. It's interesting, if you go back and do a word study of the word righteous, as it's used in the English language, you find that it comes from two words joined together. The first word is right. The second word is wise. Right, wise. That came to be known as the word that we have now in the English as righteousness. And it means straight way. In the New Testament, it denotes one who is righteous, a state of being right or right conduct, judged whether by the divine standard or according to human standards of what is right. Now, when we speak of God's righteousness, it designates the perfect agreement between his nature and his acts. And God is the standard for all men. When we talk about being just, we're talking about being righteous. right-wise, if you will. Now, the elders' dealings with men are to be fair and impartial. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verses 19 through 21, we read, "Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. Them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. I charge thee before God and the Lord Jesus Christ and the elect angels, that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality." Isn't it hard sometimes not to show partiality? Even as parents, we have to be careful with our children. Remember the heartache that Jacob caused when he showed partiality to Joseph? And of course, if you recall, partiality was shown to Jacob and to Isaac by their parents. And look at the heartache and the grief that was caused. One who serves as an elder must be careful. And this is difficult. But one must be careful not to show partiality, but to remain just in all things. Now, the elder's life is to be a demonstration of obedience to God's will. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, this is addressed to all of us as Christians, but notice with me verses 17 and 18, and notice how this will especially be true of one in a position of leadership, as well as all of us. "Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty." Now, if we drop down to chapter 7 and verse 1, he continues, "Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God." Holiness in the fear of God. Those few words should put within our mind a picture that is really tremendous. A life that is going to please God, realizing that God is the example of holiness we're to imitate. You know, our children sometimes, one of them does something. Why did you do that? Because he did it first. What if God treated us the way we treat him, in kind? God doesn't do that because God's nature is holy. And we've seen example after example. And as we look at Jonah, we were talking this morning in the adult class about the fact that we see the mercy of God not only toward the people of Nineveh, we see God's mercy with God's own preacher Jonah, don't we? What if God had treated Jonah the way Jonah was treating God? What if God had treated the people of Nineveh the way that the people of Nineveh were treating others, including God?